Good morning to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It is Thursday, September 17th, 2020. I am in Gulfport, Mississippi, the leftovers, the aftermath, whatever you want to call it, of Hurricane Sally. I'm going to go back into Alabama and Florida over the weekend to retrieve all the equipment. They need a couple of days to kind of clear the roads. I'm going to stay out of the way. It's just very difficult to get around in those areas, so why even bother right now? So today I'm going to head back into Louisiana with my friend and colleague Mike Farrow. We're going to go pick up some equipment there that's left over from Hurricane Laura. And then I'm going to head over to Houston, Texas and pick up even more equipment from a guy that I know and really appreciate his work, Jeff Lindner from Harris County Flood Control District. He had retrieved one of the camera boxes for us from Lake Charles. So there's just a lot still going on related to Laura. And then we're going to deal with the aftermath of Sally, picking up equipment from that, and all the while keeping our eyes, all of our eyes, on the Gulf of Mexico for yet another potential hurricane threat coming up in a few days. And on top of all of that, we also have to keep an eye on, and maybe two eyes, Teddy out in the Atlantic for a variety of reasons. A lot going on. We said it was going to be busy. We thought September would be busy. This is getting on, the verge of being absurd. So here's what the map looks like. You've seen this. A lot of people talking about it on social media. Almost every potential symbol and stage of development that you could not ask for, because who asked for this? But you know what I'm saying. It's all here. You got a low chance of development in the Northeast Atlantic, medium chance out here, high chance over here, storm, hurricane, depression. All we're missing, I think, is post-tropical or subtropical or whatever. So very, very busy. And the main items that we are interested in, of course, Sally is still a problem. Tropical depression, Sally, we'll look at that in a moment. Invest 90L over here, and Recon's going to head out there to check this system out. And this is going to develop into Wilfred, it does appear. And then we have to keep our eyes very closely on Teddy, now a 105 mile per hour hurricane, potentially having impacts for our friends in Bermuda, and maybe, just maybe, the Canadian Maritimes, possibly Maine. That's really hard to do, but the setup is evolving towards the possibility of that happening. So here's the satellite animation. We'll take a real quick look at this, and you've got 90L over here, the remnants of Sally, which is producing a lot of rainfall. And I'm going to examine this closer in a moment, because it's not over after it hits the coast. These systems continue inland, and it's causing a lot of problems, Sally is. And look at that. There's even that little tail coming in. We'll look at this closer in a moment on a zoomed-in satellite in just a moment. And then here is Teddy out here in the Atlantic, and that's going to continue to churn and eventually turn towards Bermuda, and it's going to send waves towards the East Coast again. Just all sorts of things going on as we examine the maps today. All right, so this is really important. You see all this green in here that I'm outlining in this blue color? So those are flash flood watches. The reds are flash flood warnings. We have a litany of river flood warnings down here in parts of Alabama and Florida. The various rivers in flood stages. They're going to take a couple of days to come down. This is a very, very dangerous situation. Flood water, you get washed away in your car if you try to cross a stream, or just an area where there's a stream coming across the road because of too much rain. Maybe there wasn't a stream there before. Culverts can give way. We think of rain as being very peaceful, very cleansing. We need the rain to keep the planet going. But too much of anything, no matter what it is, even a glass of water, too much of this stuff is not good for you. And in this case, the rainfall is problematic. It really is. And we can see that reflected not only on the watch warning map here with all these different watches, but if we look at the radar, good grief, here we go. This is what I'm talking about. Very, very heavy rain in parts of South Carolina, especially. These reds and oranges in here along the Savannah River And this is the I-20 corridor. And, you know, yikes, Augusta and points east, heading towards Columbia, which is right here. Columbia is a pretty large, spread out community. And this area has elevation. You remember in 2015 what the moisture that got kind of pulled in off the Atlantic from an upper level low that was called the fire hose event, where just tremendous moisture was funneled in to South Carolina especially, and we had all that tremendous flooding back in 2015. Well, yeah, you got to keep that in mind. Not the same setup, but this area has elevation, and you have the potential for some flash flooding. And as I mentioned, even down here in Florida, coming in this tail, you know, it's trying to feed. The low pressure is still trying to stay alive. It's not a living thing, but it's a process, and it's trying to feed itself. And so you've got these feeder bands coming in near and around Cedar Key, the Nature Coast area, up along areas near Lake City. And some of these rain showers can be very heavy, even if they're brief. So just keep that in mind. This whole mess is going to move off very slowly to the east-northeast, roughly the northeast with time. Very heavy rain, the possibility of severe weather. You never know when one of these isolated storms creates a tornado. So just be very careful if you're out and about, mindful of the fact that streams can overtop their banks and create hazardous conditions, really, really emphasizing the impacts here as we go forward. All right, even Sally inland is a problem. And then next up, 90L. This is infrared satellite animation, lots of lightning. That's what those white speckles or flashes are. This is slowly getting better organized, and the conditions down there are favorable. In the southwest Gulf of Mexico, this will eventually, almost certainly, go on to be our next named storm, and the last named storm on the traditional list of names. There's 21 names on the list. We don't use Q, U, X, Y, or Z in the Atlantic Basin. This is determined through a cooperation with the National Hurricane Center, which is a United States-based organization, right? It's a government organization, a government service, and they work with the World Meteorological Organization, part of the United Nations, and they figure out what these names are going to be. There are 6 separate lists for 6 different years. We rotate. And when you have a notable storm like Katrina or Laura, for example, those get retired off the list. Laura has not been yet. Dorian will be eventually, I'm almost certain of it. But Katrina, that name gets retired. It got replaced with another female K name, which is Katia, if I'm not mistaken. And so we only have 21 letters that we use, and we're already down to the 20th named storm with Vicky out in the Atlantic. So this one will be Wilfred. What happens when, and it's definitely going to happen, we have beyond that. In case you didn't know, we start using the letters of the Greek alphabet. So after Wilfred, it'll be Alpha, and then Beta, and Gamma, and so forth. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So this is Wilfred in the making, and we got to watch this. This is probably going to develop, and we'll look at what it might do in just a moment. Recon going out to investigate it, like I said, and it's just a matter of time. In fact, let me just pull up. I forgot. I'm still a little tired. I got some more rest last night. I wanted the vorticity map. So here's the vorticity associated with 90L, or Wilfred to be. Nice and round, getting its act together, tucked away over very, very warm water, generally favorable conditions. That'll definitely be our next named storm. I'm almost 100%. Well, the Hurricane Center shows 90%. All right, in the meantime, out in the open Atlantic, we do have Teddy over here, and you notice there's Guadalupe right over there. And so it's nice and a safe distance away from the islands. It should generate some swells that'll radiate out and eventually reach the islands. So you folks on the eastern-facing islands, eastern portions of the islands facing east, those eastern beaches, you could get some swells eventually, the northeast beaches. Great for surfing, pretty neat to see those swells come in, but just be mindful of the fact that they could be dangerous if you're not careful and respect those waves. We're going to get to these in just a minute, especially this one. Water temperatures in the Gulf, just to kind of illustrate the potential here for 90L to develop. Now, one thing is for sure, Sally especially has knocked down the upper ocean heat content and the actual sea surface temperatures of the Gulf of Mexico. And even though you see that blue on there, blue and purple color, that doesn't mean cold. It's just the way that the color scheme, the legend of this particular map, it's called a thematic map. It has a theme. That's a geographic term. And the legend at the bottom there, what is the theme? Well, the theme is sea surface temperatures, actual temperatures, and this is in degrees Celsius. Most science uses the metric system, all right? So the blue that you see is not cold, it's just colder by a couple of degrees Celsius and a few degrees Fahrenheit, all right? So these blues that you see up here that I'll highlight in black, just so you know, we're still talking 28, 29 Celsius, which is 82, 83 Fahrenheit. Plenty warm to support a hurricane. And I'm not trying to worry you, I'm just saying, when you look at this and you think, oh, look at the blue, thank goodness it's cooled off. Well, yes, and yes, it is good news. You want it to cool off from where it was earlier, but, it's still warmer and warm enough to support hurricane activity, and especially down here, which is where 90L is currently organizing. And depending on where it tracks, the water temperatures near the Texas coast, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, plenty of fuel for this to take advantage of. This is not mid-October. We haven't had a big front come down and blow across the ocean, kind of mixing things up. We've had tropical cyclones doing that, and that's what they do the most efficiently, by the way. They're not so much taking heat out of the tropics and moving it poleward in like literally as they are removing heat out of the ocean because they churn up the water. They do release latent heat, but they're more efficient at taking heat out of the ocean and converting that heat into latent heat in the atmosphere and dissipating it in the local environment. And then that whole system usually gets dragged into the westerlies and it becomes extratropical. We're getting off subject here, but it's very fascinating when earlier, just a couple weeks ago, this was all yellow and red, 29, 30 Celsius. Now, the bluish colors indicating that Sally especially has knocked down those sea surface temperatures quite a bit, but they're still plenty warm. All right, so where do we go? All right, this is the current, from last night. This was the setup from the ECMWF. Let's make this clear. And this is the 850 millibar level, cyclonic vorticity. So this map is showing this graphic, basically the same level of the atmosphere. This is vorticity, and this is also cyclonic vorticity, except, this is the initial condition at 0Z last night, or 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So what's what? Well, there's Sally, the vorticity signature of Sally. There's 90L. There's Teddy. All right, and everything else don't worry about right now. All right, so let's move along. All right, this is the initial from last night, 24 hours, so this will be valid tonight, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Thursday night. Right here, the leftovers of Sally moving into the area not far from Charlotte. And so the Piedmont of North Carolina, upstate of South Carolina, really going to be under the gun tonight for very, very heavy rain. Please I'm serious about this. I'm going to say it one more time. Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Greensboro, Winston-Salem down to Charlotte, that whole Piedmont Crescent as we call it, the I-20 corridor down to Columbia, and all the wonderful cities in and around those areas. The flooding potential from this is significant. I'm hyping it. Be very, very aware and be careful. If you're not alive on the other side of the screen, listening and watching me, listening to and watching me, what good am I, right? Seriously, I got to keep you alive. That's my first goal. It really is. And so when I see that vorticity signature there, that is the energy with Sally moving into the Carolinas there. So please keep that in mind. All right, there's Teddy, probably a Category 3 by this point. We'll see. And here is Wilfred to be, trying to get organized. Another 24 hours out. So this would be Friday night, right? So Friday night, 8 p.m., the energy associated with Sally gets pulled out into the Atlantic with this trough. And then a big high is trying to build out of Canada here. Big old high pressure up here coming down, and that's going to play some interesting roles in things. And in between, you've got this frontal boundary. There's Teddy. Don't worry about all this other stuff out here. It's, for us, generally inconsequential. And then there is organizing what would be Wilfred, Friday night. All right, let's move out to the 72-hour time frame. Saturday night, 8 p.m. Saturday night. More than likely a very, very powerful Wilfred here. Probably a category 3 or 4. Very, very well developed in the model. And I'm just looking at this level of the atmosphere, and briefly, why do I use this? I like it because if they don't look healthy at this level, then they're not healthy, period. This is not the surface. This is about 5,000 feet up. And this is the vorticity. This is the skeleton of the system in my mind. That's how I've always looked at this. That's not necessarily how the National Hurricane Center looks at it, how somebody like Jack or Levi or Eric or Ben, these people that we follow on Twitter, you know these, Ben Knoll, Eric Webb, Jack Silland, Levi Cowan. I mean, I'm just saying, this is my way. And I mean, heck, if the 850 level is not intact, nothing else matters to me. That's how I look at it. So I'm just, explaining that. So when I see what we're seeing here with Teddy, I mean, holy cow. Anyway, there's the vorticity spread out over thousands of miles associated with this front that's pushing through. Big old high pressure area, northeast winds coming down this way. A taste of fall. I don't like it. I like summer weather, but that's just me. So anyhow, Saturday night, here's Wilfred to be trying to gain intensity in the west central Gulf of Mexico, west, southwest, whatever. So Sunday night, there's Wilfred in the Gulf, getting close to South Texas, perhaps. Huge high pressure area here, big old high. Teddy's going to slow down, get really close to Bermuda. And then there's a little bit of an upper low that's going to develop over here. And then interesting things are going to happen with Teddy. And we're going to have to just wait and see how this evolves. So this is 96 hours, Sunday night, and then Monday night, Teddy seemingly kind of getting caught up in the flow. And it's going to head out to sea, you might think, and it probably will. But you never know. Enough of an upper low is going to develop. High pressure out over the Atlantic tries to block it. It might try to turn back. This is day 5. And you notice over here, Wilfred, right off the coast of Brownsville and vicinity, possibly. And then maybe Alpha out here, possibly. We'll see. Our first Greek name storm of the year. Wow. So finally by day 6, if this is Monday night, this is Tuesday night, you see Teddy gets pinwheeled in towards the Gulf of Maine and Bay of Fundy area, maybe southwest Nova Scotia. I don't know. We'll see. That's a stretch. That's 6 days out. I mean, it could go on out this way, and it's not a problem. It could be slower and pinwheel in more to the south and then head up. There's a lot of possibilities. This is 6 days out. Let's just keep our cool and watch it if we're up in this area. That's all we can do. You know, people are going to talk about Sandy and the similarities, and yes, Sandy got caught and phased with a big old upper level trough and low pressure area, but no two systems are alike. This is a different setup than Sandy. This is more kind of just getting pinwheeled as a true tropical system instead of absorbed in the larger weather system. Water temperatures up here are quite cool. I'll show you that in a moment. It's just something to watch. More interesting to me is day 6 down here, Tuesday night, of the potential strong tropical storm sitting off of Texas. Absolutely. And then finally by day 7, rarely do I show you beyond day 5, but this is the pattern that we're in. And if we just go back and look how things evolve, you know, this is very problematic for more impacts for North America. from the waves that Teddy's going to send out towards the islands and the East Coast eventually, potentially impacting up here, and Wilfred down here. I mean, my goodness. It's like, well, at least after this, we should get a break. So, a lot to keep up with over the coming days. As I said, I'm down here in Gulfport. I'm just going to have to stay down here. That's all there is to it. I'm going to be down here anyway. Got a lot of work to do, post-Sally stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. But this is what I do for a living. I've got great people supporting me, and I'm able to do this. And we do that through Patreon. Right here, I talk about it. Just reminding you, maybe you're brand new to my channel. Approaching 32,000 subscribers on YouTube. And so this is how we support it right here. It's called Patreon. It is a crowdfunding method to support stuff that matters to you. And in my case, it's live hurricane coverage, but it's beyond that. It's updates, it's education, the technology, and you get to pick the level. $1, $10, $25, maybe more. It's up to you. What do you get for your support? Well, you get access to our HurricaneTrack Insider, which is where all of our tools are. We've got the tracking tools, the original series, the podcast, the wonderful chat. This is exclusive. The YouTube chat can become like the Wild West. You know that. This is the chat for our supporters. And these are all real people. These are the people supporting. This is Tim Bruno. This is Josh. You have Eddie. Ralph. It's just great. And in that, you also have access to our incredible tracking map. There is no other hurricane tracking map out there like this. Period. Not even close. You got the radar that you can overlay. You can zoom in. You can even go street level. Look at how friggin' cool this is. And it is crowd-funded. You got the street level map so you can see what's going on at street level. Wow. You can change the opacity. See through the radar. Oh, come on, man. This is how you do it, through Patreon. It is not just a subscription service where, I need some money, pay for this, and I give you something. It is a effort and a movement almost unlike anything that's out there. So if you have an interest in weather in general, hurricane season is where we are now. I also cover nor'easters, lake effect snow. I was just out in Colorado. This crowd-funded science, this wonderful graphic that one of our crowdfunding partners, Kari, over in the UK, produced for us. It's an effort it's incredible. It really is. I'm so humbled. Anyway, that's how you do it. Patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. We're trying to build this. Yes, it's my job. This is how I get paid. This is what I do for a living. But in return, we're able to do some remarkable things. All right? So get involved if you like. And if you can't, I understand. Maybe someday. And 90% of what we do, though, is available to the public at absolutely no charge. Even the live YouTube feed that we put out there, we don't monetize that. No commercials, no Google ads. That is supported by our crowdfunding folks. So that's how you do it. All right? All right, I'm done. I'm going to upload this, and then I got to get ready to hit the road with Mike Farrow and get to work. We will be streaming live on the YouTube channel later today, so tune in to that. And thanks for following, by the way, on all the social media platforms. I appreciate that very much. All right, have a great rest of your Thursday. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll see you again as we travel the Hurricane Highway.